Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to bring you a tanking guide. I had a few requests for this on my last video, and I just thought I could cover each class for PvE activities and just let you guys know the general overview of them. So if you like the video, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. And I do stream over on Twitch. I'll leave my schedule here if you want to check it out. I actually started streaming on YouTube as well, so if you do subscribe, you might get the notifications. But yeah, have a good day, and I hope you enjoy the video. Intro for the tank. I mean, at this point, everyone kind of gets the idea of a tank, but if you're new to MMOs and you don't know, the tank is basically meant to lead the group and take all of the mobs, whatever you're fighting, and just position them so the DPS can DPS and the heals can heal. That's kind of the basics of it. They hold aggro, so that way your DPS isn't getting hit, and yeah, your job is just to position them correctly. That's real quick, just to cover what actually makes the taunts active on your weapons. It's just having a cut carnelian in it. It doesn't have to be pristine. It can be any rarity. So if you're lower level and you're trying to tank, you don't have to have a pristine. You can get just the base ones. You just have to make sure it's cut, and then you just put it in your weapon, and your taunts are active, and you generate 350% more threat. Now that we know what a tank is supposed to do, we got to figure out how do we generate threat so that our healers and our DPS are safe. Threat you can just think of as an invisible meter that is telling the enemies to go to you or to somebody else. Whoever has the most threat, that's who they're trying to attack. Now, how do we generate threat? You can do it by just light attacking or heavy attacking. Heavy attacking in the new season will actually apply a half-second taunt, so it's way stronger than it is now. And then blocking will also generate threat now. And then you have your taunts, which is just basically telling the enemy, hey, come here initially. Like, it just bumps you all the way up as the target that needs to be attacked. It's also important to mention that different abilities and different weapons, just normal attacks, will generate different threat values. So that is important to note. Just based on the way that healing is being decreased for the threat values when healing, and a lot of the damage threat levels are also going down. So, and then some of the tank weapons are actually going up in the threat value that they can generate. So it should be easier than ever to tank. Now I want to go over the taunts for each weapon real quick. So the sword and shield, you have shield bass, which is a single target taunt. And then you have the defender's resolve, which is a AoE taunt. Rapier, the only taunt, is just riposte. It's an AoE taunt. Hatchet is berserk, also an AoE taunt. Flail, you have barrage, which is an AoE taunt. I guess if they're grouped together. The spear, you have cyclone. That's the only taunt. Great axe, you have reap, and you have maelstrom. The great sword, probably one of the best taunts because of the distance on them. You have rupture, and you have calamity. The bow and musket do not have any taunts. The blunderbuss, you have claw shot as a taunt, and blast shot. The fire staff, you have incinerate as a taunt. Life staff does not have any, but naturally the healing threat values, you do pull aggro pretty easily with the life staff if you don't have a traditional thing. The only taunt on the ice gauntlet is wind chill. And then for the VG, the only taunt is Scream. When you're tanking, you're almost always going to want to be in a heavy equip load. Now, there's use cases when you're speedrunning and stuff that light tanking is fine. But for the most part, you're always going to want to be in heavy. As far as gearing goes, once you get towards end game, I mean, early game, you're kind of just going to have what you have. You're going to want to have pieces that have either con or strength on them. But late game, these are still going to be your best pieces. The Frigid Dawn set that comes from Glacial Tarn when it's mutated. You really can't get much better than this early. It comes with Ellie Aversion and Enchanted Ward. This is an illegal perk combination. You cannot get this anywhere else. You can't craft it like this. So this is just going to be some of the best in slot gear. Now, the gear score is going up to 725, which I know, it sounds like a big jump, but realistically, from 7 to 725, you're missing out on stats you can allocate somewhere. So odds are, in a tank build, you're missing out on a little bit of damage because you don't really need to go over 300 con. So you're missing out on a little bit of damage and some armor. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. These are still just going to be better than most pieces. And then for my choice of artifact, I use the Void Darkplate. But if you're looking for other pieces to use early on for PvE activities, just keep an eye out for Enchanted Ward or any conditioning perks or health. Those are going to be the best early. Just for more resistance, you just make you tankier. Now I want to go over the attribute splits for the various builds that you may have. So if I was tanking, I would probably be going sort of like Great Sword Warhammer. That's probably what I would be using. So for most of these, all these weapons that you're going to be seeing here are going to scale with strength, whether it's the primary or the secondary scaling. But you're going to want 300 con and 300 strength. Now, this point right here is getting changed in Season 6. So you're no longer going to get grit off of your like just your basic attacks. So you can see right here, if I just basic attack, you see how I glow white? That's grit. So I can't be staggered when I'm light attacking. That is getting changed in the new season. It's getting changed to if you can't be, you basically you get grit while you're charging your heavy attack or you're heavy attacking. So like as soon as you charge it, you're going to get it. That's how it is now. To an extent, I think it activates a little bit quicker depending on the weapon. But yeah, so that's what it's going to change to for the 300. But your stat split for most of these is just going to be 300, 300. I can't really think of a scenario where if you're using one of the main 5 I'm suggesting that you're ever going to go anything else. All right, next I just want to go over some of the weapons and what the perks could look like, or some of the perks you want to keep a lookout for on your weapons. So like I said, starting off with the greatsword, you're going to want Serenity. I mean, this is just best in slot. If you can't get Serenity, or you're just waiting to get it to drop because you have no control over it, something like this could work. Energizing counter is pretty nice on the weapon, just giving you more stamina back. Or you could look like Relentless Freedom. That's also nice. So if you get rooted when you Relentless Rush, you become unrooted. So that's what I would look for in a greatsword. Now, if we're going Warhammer, you have the choice of going like Hated on one, which I don't think in the new patch Hated is going to be all that needed. It was nice to hold aggro for now, but with all the changes coming in Season 6, I don't really think Hated is going to be required anymore. So you could look at something similar to this with like Sundering Shockwave or Sundering Clear Out just for the extra rend. But I think you want to go Clear Out on the weapon if possible, just because it's a higher rend percentage than Shockwave. So keep a lookout for Sundering Clear Out or Shockwave. Next, we can go over the hatchet and the sword. Now, if you're using the hatchet, you could use the Freyas if you'd like, the artifact, or the butcher. That's perfectly fine. These are for options if you're not using either, which if you're using a sword, you're probably going to be using the butcher, but regardless. Yeah, so you could look at something like this with Refreshing Move, Leaping Strike, and Trencher Crits. Again, you don't really need Hated on the base weapons anymore because the threat values are being changed, so I don't think you'll need it. And then on the hatchet, I would just look to make sure you have Keen Berserk. This is obviously not Biss. You do not want Rogue as a tank. Keen is fine, but you definitely don't want Rogue. But just make sure you have Keen Berserk on the hatchet itself. Real quick, we can go over the flail. I don't actually have a good tanking flail. I mean, I don't really tank that much anyways, but I don't really just have one with good rolls. I think the one thing you really do want on this would be like Crowded Bludgeoned. Just for the CDR on the ability itself is pretty strong. And then you can look for something like Refreshing Move. Refreshing Move is kind of always just good on tank weapons, you know, just to keep your taunts up and everything. All right, next we can cover the jewelry for the last of the gear. Also with the Heartrune. The Heartrune, you're almost always going to want to go Stone Form. There's use cases for other things, but I would just always go Stone Form with the Mending Form and Fortifying Form on it. Next, so for the jewelry, for your amulets, they're pretty interchangeable. I think Health Divine is really, really strong. And then your other protection, you can kind of just switch as needed for whatever you're doing. So you'll see here, like this one has Nature Protection. The same amulet can also have Void Protection. And these are actually named ones that drop from Glacial Tarn. And there's also very good ones that drop from any of the like Depths or Dynasty, I believe. And then the other amulet is the Primal one, where it's right here, that drops from Savage Divide. So these are all named ones you get just from doing the dungeon. So these are really, really strong ones to try to farm when they're up and they're mutated. Now to go over the ring, I think the ring, you're going to want something like Hardy, Keen Awareness, Leeching. You get the Lifesteal, you get the extra crit chance, plus Hardy you're going to want no matter what. Now if you're running something like Blood Drinker, you can just run this same setup, add Keen Awareness on it, perfectly fine. But I think this is the kind of ring you're going to go for. Obviously you don't want Dex. It's not ideal. There are named ones that you can get to drop. They have Hardy Leeching always, and then the third perk is random. So these are really, really strong. You can always just get one out of the kiln and upgrade it, but it's worth noting these do not go to 725. You can only get these to go to 700. For your earring, right now, I think Despised is really strong. So like Despised, Refreshing Toast plus another perk is good. But however, Season 6, I don't think you're really going to need Despised again with the threat changes. So I would look at something more along these lines. Healthy Toast, Refreshing Toast, and Regenerating. Regenerating is really strong as a tank just because, well, it is a source of healing, so it's generating threat. But also, you have so much health that the 0.52% is actually pretty high. And then Healthy Toast, you know, you can use your mana pots if you have them on as a little pseudo health pot. And then Refreshing Toast, just you get all your consumes back faster, so it's nice. Your consumes, you're going to mainly be looking for, you know, your normal stuff. You're going to have your health pots, your regen pots. And in the new update, you can actually run what is it? The powerful gemstone dust or the oak flesh balm, and it won't get rid of your ward. So that's actually a new thing you can add. Like previously, like if you use this, this would take away your ward. It no longer will. This is mainly for PvP. That's why it's here. But I would run these, and then if you get an earring with healthy toast, you can also just run mana pots, just to proc it easier, and then you have your hearty meals as well. You actually, once you know what activity you're doing, you're going to want to use whatever ward you're fighting. So if you're fighting ancients, you're going to use ancient ward. And just like the ward, you're going to want to use coatings just so you're doing more damage to them as well, your coatings. And then you're going to want to pop a honing stone. Now, if you don't have the gold for the powerful one, they are quite expensive. Just use the lower tier. It's perfectly fine. You're a tank. You're not really meant to, you're not putting out high damage anyways. And then you can use Desert Sunrise for any dots that you may occur, or may encounter rather. And then whatever food you need, whether it's banana bread or banana parfait for Khan. Yeah, for the extra stats. So go over the shield real quick. I think the set of perks you're going to want is something like this. You're going to want Enchanted Ward, Shield Defense, and Sturdy. Those are all really good. Refreshing is not so good. I think here you would prefer to have some sort of protection. So whether it's Thrust Protection, Strike Protection, Void Protection, any of those, which they can roll on here. And now you can also get Enchanted Ward on the shields. All right, moving on to the artifacts. We're going to start with two that are on the PvP track, and that is the Serenity and the Unmoved. The Serenity, unfortunately, you have no control over whether these drop. Off the PvP track, once you're level 20 on the track, they have a chance to drop every 9 tracks, I believe. So it's completely random. You actually have no control over it. It kind of sucks because the Serenity is just the best greatsword in the game, and there's not even one close to it. What makes the Serenity so good is if you look at the passive on it for Balanced Blade, you're doing more damage when you're in your onslaught stance. But when you're in your defensive stance, you're gaining fortify, so you're basically taking less damage. So that's why there's no other greatsword that really even compares to it. So yeah, that's why it's so good. Moving on to the Unmoved. Now the Unmoved, you also get off the PvP track, and it comes with Grit Ward and Physical Aversion. For these, I would probably just put health on it. That's just kind of like a base all for PvE and PvP if you were to use them. Basically, these boots are just used so you can't be displaced. All right, moving on to the next artifact, we have Odo. This is the only open world one that you would have to farm, and you can farm it in Elysian Wilds from Vanash. So you can do the quest to unlock it, and then at the kiln, I would upgrade it, and I would also put a gem setting pin in it, just so you can throw a Carnelian in it. Next is the Blood Drinker. The Blood Drinker can be found from Mutated Starstone, and it comes with Hardy and Leeching. At the Gypsum Kiln, I would add Keen Awareness to it. It's just an overall perk for no matter what you're tanking, instead of putting like some sort of like damage type on it. It just covers the whole basis no matter what you're tanking or what weapons you're using rather. And this, you do 25% less damage, but you have 25% more lifesteal. All right, moving on to the Butcher. The Butcher can be found from Mutated Dynasty Shipyard, and it comes with Keenly Jagged and Empowering Whirling Blade on it. This just makes your bleeds last longer on both of your weapons, so it's pretty nice. And it allows Whirling Blade to inflict a bleed. And I would add a gem setting pin at the Gypsum Kiln to it, just so you can add a Carnelian or whatever else you need to. Next one is the Wall. The Wall can be found from Mutated Ennead, and it comes with, the downside to the Wall is you don't actually get a dodge, but you do regen stam faster, so it's good. It's got its use cases. And it also comes with Sturdy and Keenly Fortified on it. Now, at the Gypsum Kiln, I would put, if you plan on using SNS, I would put Fortifying Shield Rush on it, but if you want more of just like an overall good perk, just add Enchanted Ward to it. So the next artifact we're going to go over is the Lost Stopwatch. This can be found from the depths in Restless Shore when it's mutated. And this will make your taunts active, so you don't actually need a Carnelian. So that's kind of nice. And you'll generate 300% more threat, and your stuns will also last longer. Now, it comes with health and purify on it, and I would add Divine at the Gypsum Kiln. And probably the best artifact to use for tanking is Void Darkplate. It comes with Enchanted Ward and Physical Aversion. You can add, I would add any conditioning to this, or you could do health if you really wanted to, but any kind of conditioning. I use this for PvP, so I just put Flame Conditioning on it. But you can find this from Mutated, Barnacles, and Black Powder. Moving on to the last artifact. If you were thinking about using Hatchet, I would probably go with Freya's. Sin's also not a terrible option, but I would not add Rogue to it. I use it as DPS. If tanking, I would probably just go Vicious or Enchanted maybe. And you can find this from Mutated Genesis. Okay, for the masteries, we're going to start off with the Greatsword. It's important to note that each weapon kind of excels at different things. So if you look at the greatsword, it's really, really good at keeping your empower high. Just so basically more damage, more crit chance, everything. So that's kind of what the greatsword does. Now, if you look at this, these are your two different stances. So when you use Relentless Rush, you're going to be in Onslaught stance, which you're going to do more damage, but you're also going to take more damage. And when you're in Onslaught, your heavies also charge faster. So, but they also consume stamina. So it's a trade-off, right? You can heavy faster, but you're using stam to do it. And then you look at your Defiant stance over here, your other two abilities for Counter and Rupture. One thing to note with this is if you Rupture to grab aggro, and then you need to heal, if you counter afterwards, you'll actually heal from it because you're already in Defiant stance. So that's kind of a nice little thing you can do with it. As I said before, each weapon kind of exceeds at something, and the Warhammer exceeds it. You can apply a good rend with the Armor Breaker. So usually it's pretty good to like CC them, and then you can open with Armor Breaker, just allowing everybody to do more damage. But this excels a little bit of rend with CC. That's what the Warhammer does. It does have a pretty good taunt with Shockwave. And you can also get Sundering Shockwave, which applies more rend. You can get Sundering Clear Out, which applies more rend. So it's pretty nice. You'll have points where your heavy attacks will empower you, so you can do more damage. Taking damage, you also do more damage. And Grit will be added to your heavies, so you can't be staggered while you're trying to heavy. All right, so the next one, we're going to go over the sword. You'll notice we're not in the game. We're actually on the New World database. Shout out them. If you need anything New World related, come to this website. I'll link it in the description. But we're on the website because Sword is actually getting quite a few changes for the next season. One of the big ones being here. So Whirlblade, it's going to do different things based on your equip load now. Heavy, which you'll be tanking in heavy. It's actually going to do Weaken now. It used to do a lot of Rend, I believe. But yeah, now it's Weaken for heavy. And then over here for Defender's Resolve, it also does different things based on the shield you have equipped, which is kind of cool. So you can see the different things that it does based on the round, kite, or tower shield. When you light attack, when the chain ends, you're getting rend. And you have a lot of empowers here as well. So this is really good at rending, weakening, and empowering yourself to do more damage. Down here, note this is leadership. You can if you're not sure about the group you're with, or if you're still learning, you can expect more points into the other side to go defensive formation. But generally, you're just going to want leadership. You know, you got to trust your healer and your DPS to just do the damage and keep you alive. All right, if I was tanking with the hatchet, I would go something along these lines. We have Berserk. We have Berserk, Raging Torrent, and Empower, or just Rending Throw. Now, Berserk is by far your strongest ability. It is your only taunt on the hatchet, but it is a very strong AoE taunt. And when you actually pop the Berserk, you cleanse yourself, and then you also just get increased damage dealt. So it's really, really strong. But one of the main reasons to go hatchet as an offhand would be Defy Death. This basically is if you're going to die, you don't die, and you regen health instead. It's only on a 1 minute cooldown, so it is pretty strong. And one point I do want to take note of here is the heavy attacks Rent Fortify. That's pretty good. You know, if you're in a clump, you can just start with that heavy and get instant more Fortify. One point to avoid here is this one, though. If you take this, you will no longer be able to block. So that's not really what you want as a tank. And then the Rending Throw is just applying rend to the target, so more damage. I think that's all the points you really need to worry about. All right, lastly, we're going to cover the Flail. The Flail really exceeds at giving your team just more survivability, more Fortify and stuff. It also has pretty good CC with Vortex for the heals. It can also cleanse your team. So if your team's rooted or something, like for Nature Mutation example, it's pretty strong there. If your team's rooted, you can use Vortex and it'll cleanse them. It's good at extending debuffs. It's good at, yeah, it's just really good for survivability for your team. Your only taunt here is Barrage. And Barrage is actually pretty cool. It's a really good movement speed ability. So you're actually going to dash forward pretty far, and then you'll have your slam. So Barrage is pretty strong. But again, it is your only taunt here. And then Crowded Bludgeon is one of the stronger ones. It does good damage, and you slam the ground, and it's going to increase the armor of anybody in it, or anybody that gets hit by it. So that's why having Crowded Bludgeoned on here is really strong, because you can get your cooldown for this back even faster. I just want to say thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I stream over on Twitch Monday through Friday, and I am streaming on YouTube now as well. I'll leave a link to my Discord down below. If you're trying to do fresh starts and you need a community to join, I'd love to have you. We have a few people already joining, so we're going to try to start a company over there, do all PvE, PvP activities. But thanks for watching. Have a good night, and I'll catch you in the next one.